Very much. Okay, now more on the subject over immigration reform. In a speech in El Paso, Texas earlier today, the president made a passionate call for a major immigration shakeup, giving millions of illegal immigrants a chance at citizenship if they go to the back of the line and pay a fine. Let's weigh in on this with our political experts, liberal Jon Elliott and conservative Joseph Perkins. Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you, Mark.
Thank you. John, first of all, I listened to the speech, and indeed it was impassioned, but there weren't a lot of specifics from the president.
He's good at that. It's the political season he's running. He owes something to the Latino market. He's politicking. It was a throwing down the gauntlet. He knows that in 2007, President Bush had a bill out there that gave a path to citizenship, that 11 senators on the Republican side supported it in the United States Senate. He's basically saying, you guys out there willing to do it again? And he knows they're not, because they're pushed hard. People aren't willing really to say this in the media, but there are very significant elements in the Republican Party that make it a racist party. And it's going further and further.
But you're saying it makes the Republican Party a racist party?
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah, it is very strong, and I'll stand on that. There are elements of the party that will not pull back from that. They're allowed themselves to be pulled further and further to the right. Look at Arizona. As soon as Arizona went out there with that Papers, Please law, other states have followed suit. There's the push to push immigrants back across the border. We have to be realistic about this. 11 million people are not going across the border, not going to put them back. We can't even afford the gas, let's be frank. We get $4 a gallon, we can't put the gas to put 11 million people back across the border.
Right. I mean, it's a provocative thing what you're saying. I think a lot of people would not contend that the Republican Party is racist. What is interesting, Joseph, today is that the president was standing at the border basically insinuating that he has given Republicans what they wanted, a stronger border, fewer people are crossing, basically saying, tag, you're it. What are you going to do about this?
You know what? John's statement kind of capsulizes what's wrong with the immigration debate. If you don't agree with the president, then you're somehow a racist. And what he's essentially saying is that the majority of Californians are racist because their views are really kind of compatible with that of the Republican Party. And that is that, and it's the majority of Americans that say, we are for immigration, legal immigration, but not for illegal immigration. And folks like John tend to muddy the distinction.
How so?
Well, because when you say that most Republicans are racist because they will not sign on to what the president is selling, then that is demagoguing the issue. The president said that, you know what, I want to bring about a civil discussion of the issue for purposes of reaching some kind of bipartisan agreement. And he goes out and says, you know what, they want to build a moat around America, and then they want alligators inside of the moat. That is no way to bring about bipartisan
Here's the one
consensus.
thing that strikes me, and I've heard this from Republican lawmakers, from Democratic lawmakers. This is a political hot potato. Essentially, you have many people in California, in San Diego, and certainly voters in Arizona, who have long contended that the national government, including the president, regardless of the administration, does not take this on.
Of course not.
Members of Congress don't take this on. Both Republican and Democrat, nobody wants to. Why?
Well, he had the bill. I mean, he had control of the House and the Senate. They passed the House under Pelosi, and it went through the Senate, and the Republicans in the Senate filibustered against it. They prevented it from becoming law. He would have signed it into law. And isn't it interesting that he gave this speech in El Paso? He didn't give the speech in Buffalo. He didn't give this speech on the northern border. He gave it on the southern border. Why? I mean, with this immigration reform bill, it's not an immigration reform bill. It's a legal immigration bill. It's a brown bill. It's anti-Mexican. Let's call it what it is.
It's also a fact
It's not against Canadians and people from Finland or Denmark or in England.
Right. There are also 50.5 million Hispanics right now in the country.
Correct.
It's a sizable double-digit portion of the population that he's trying to please. How does he deliver that, though? I mean, how this really is going to be up to Congress in many regards.
Of course it is. If he really were sincere about trying to get immigration reform this year or next, he would have put forward either a bill or he would have challenged Congress to put a bill on his desk. And he did neither. This is strictly a political move on his part to try to pander to a constituency that is very important leading up to
Joseph,
the
he had a
re-election
bill.
campaign.
He had a bill that the Republicans wouldn't go through, and it was a very similar bill that President Bush had that some of the Republicans voted for in the Senate that they won't vote for again, because they're pushed hard by the racist wing of the Republican Party.
No, let's go easy on that. Let's talk, if we can, before we run out of time, because we're almost out of time. Truly, what are the possibilities of any legislation being passed on immigration overhaul?
Let me tell you what can be passed, Mark. And here's something where Democrats and Republicans here in the California delegation can agree, and that is this. Our federal government has fallen down on its job to protect our borders, to ensure that legal immigration moves forward while illegal immigration is stanched. What I would like to see is our delegation say to Washington, you all reimburse us for the cost of accommodating illegal immigration in this state until such time as the DREAM Act or whatever John might have in mind ultimately passes. But the fact of the matter is no state is more disproportionately and adversely affected by illegal immigration than the state of California, something to the tune of $5 billion a year to $7 billion a year.
John, is there middle ground? I mean, can something realistically be reached, or do you think that members of Congress, along with the administration, are going to stay away from specifics and hope that this issue is going to go away?
I don't think it's going to be able to be passed between now and 2012. I just don't think it will. But as I mentioned just before we went on air, Mark, I was at a private residence a few weeks ago. The mayor, Carlos Bustamante of Tijuana, Mayor Jim Young of El Paso, and our mayor, Jerry Sanders of San Diego, was there. This was an Alan Burson-sponsored event. George Mitrovich of the City Club of San Diego was the coordinator. And it was talking about how safe the borders are and how much has been done and how many more deportations have been done.
Almost out of time, if you can make your point, please.
All right, yes. I don't think there's any chance of getting a bill done. The DREAM Act is going to come up. It's going to be political. It's going to force the Republicans to vote no, and the Latino population is going to see that Obama's trying, but it's not going to go through, and it'll be put on point.
Jon Elliott Joseph Perkins, thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Catherine.